Okay. Happy first. Happy.
Then if I try.
Yeah, that's the view that you're getting.
Again.
Yeah, no, I'm watching the
No, it's just getting us.
Hmm?
It's just getting us. So all we could do it like that and go it through it like that. If you wanted to.
Okay.
Or you could have it mainly.
What do you think?
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one.
Sorry, no, that's not very helpful. So there's no way to do the split screen with the slides. Just gonna have to go through them. Your volume off, otherwise you're gonna get reverb and it's gonna sound awful. Anybody excited with getting your exam questions?
Just the line.
Let me just change it.
Sure.
Okay. So, are we ready to rock?
Yeah, we're ready to rock.
If anybody wants to ask a question, obviously you're watching the Hangout, you can drop a question on the
Do you want to
YouTube.
move the slide?
I'm going to jump over and move the slides myself. But you can drop any questions about the exam questions onto the YouTube page if you want, add a comment. You could use the hashtag if you want. I know not that many of you guys have done that this year, but it might be quite a good idea. All right, so first slide. I think we jump between here because I don't have this. So what are we going to look at? We're going to look at your exam. We're going to look at what the questions are. We're going to give them to you. We're going to talk to you about how to do the exam successfully, about how to do very well in the exams. So we didn't lie to you. We are genuine in giving you these exam questions, and we're going to tell you what they are so you guys can go away and prepare your answers from today. Are the lecture slides on, or is the exam question on Moodle?
Yes, the exam paper is up on Moodle now, and also is your tutorial for this week, where you'll be able to go into your tutorials and start working on your essay questions.
Very good. Right. Really should have brought a clicker, shouldn't I? Does anybody want to volunteer to move the slides? Looking in your general direction.
Go on.
Yeah.
Can I bring them back?
Yeah, bring it up. Yeah.
So you know, just the right arm.
You got a chair?
Okay, so next slide. Right. Right. So, thanks to Lucas, my lovely assistant. Okay, so your exam, we know the breakdown of this. Your exam was worth 60% a module. This 60% of your marks go towards this, so put 60% of your effort and energy into it. Your exam is going to be 2 hours long. We'll talk about the breakdown of that in a while, okay? But that is the time that you have. We also have the date for your exam as well.
Yeah.
So you guys should be able to figure out what date is that, Sarah?
It is on the.
We'll come to it in a sec. We'll come back to that.
It is Thursday, the 10th of May. If you've not already booked, looked on your timetable, it's Thursday, the 10th of May at 4:30 till 6:30 in the Sugden Sports Centre.
Okay. So if you don't know where that is, it's directly across the road, the other side of Oxford Road, in the sports centre there. So you have 2 hours starting at 4:30 on that date. So 60% of your overall marks go for this, so there's quite a lot. So depending on what you got for your group assignment, you could have a great chance to kind of improve your mark overall and do quite well. So 2 hours long, covered that already. 40% you need to get over 40% of the marks to pass within this exam. So obviously that kind of makes sense. It will be added to your assignment grade. Okay, so if you do very well on the exam and then you had, say, a lower than satisfactory mark in your group assignment, it's a great chance to kind of bring your overall grade up, and that will be the final grade you'll get at the end of the year. And obviously you need 40% to pass the module. Okay, so it's a brief bit about the exam.
Yeah.
So the format. So I explained this to you guys in the lecture hall at one point. Sarah's explained it to you, and I believe other people may have explained it to you in some detail. But look, let's just go through it bit by bit. It's called a pre-seen open book examination. So it's called a pre-seen open book examination. So there's two elements to that. Number one, pre-seen. What does that mean? That means that we are giving you the question in advance, okay? So you have the benefit of being given the exam questions before you go into the exam hall. The open book is very common with science and mathematics modules. So over in John Dalton, the other side of the Mancunian Way, when those guys go into their exams, they actually have all of the answers kind of prepared, and they bring them in with them because there's lots of calculations and stuff that would take them a long time. So we're merging those two things together, pre-seen element and then open book exam. So with us giving you the questions, you go away and you prepare the best answers that you can from today, and then you bring those answers into the exam hall with you. So ideally, you should be bringing in a couple of pieces of paper. Don't bring in books. Somebody does it every year. They bring in 4 or 5 books that they think they're going to read within those 2 hours. You should have read those books before you come to that exam hall, okay? So you bring in a couple of sheets of paper with your exam answers prepared and ready on those sheets of paper, wherein you sit in the exam for 2 hours, and what you do, you transcribe your hard work into the exam booklet, okay? So, yeah, that's it. Oh, next slide, thank you. So why open book? Well, there's lots of different benefits to it, but ideally what it'll do is it will limit the amount of stress you guys will encounter. It will hopefully minimize any kind of mystery. There's no secrecy about what topics are coming up. We're giving you what the topics are, okay? Now, the benefit of doing that is that you guys know from today, which means that you can go away and you can start checking back over the lecture slides, checking back what you've done in the seminars, and you start to pull that information together. Then you go to the reading list, and then you go and see what have we prescribed you to read, and then you go and find a bit of extra information. So if you think about it in this way, the analogy I'd like to use, it's almost like Formula One racing, okay? Formula One racing, they have all these magnificent cars, and they're all the most super fast cars in the world, but you only get one winner, don't you? If everybody's driving a super fast car, you all have to compete against each other. So there's no disadvantage really for you guys. You have the same benefit of seeing these questions in advance, and you have the same benefit of being able to prepare your answers before you go Okay, so it does limit the stress of students. It reduces the impact of mystery, the impact of being lucky with whatever topic that you choose. And for us, it's more important that you guys spend your time researching your responses to these questions. Okay, so if you spend the time between now and when your exam is working on your exam answers, for us, that's a better use of your time. And we think that generally we tend to get very good answers when we correct your examinations, when we correct these exams over the summer.
Yeah.
What else have we got? Those familiar with running these types of examinations comment that the quality of student answers are fairly judged. I think we've seen that over the past couple of years.
Definitely.
The quality of the answers to this format of exam is 1,000,000 times better than a standard exam where you guys don't know what's coming up. Okay? And that works out better for us, and obviously works out better for you guys. All right, okay, next slide. So let's get on to the actual format of the exam. There's 2 sections to it, Section A and Section B. The importance of Section A and Section B is that you have to answer Section A. Okay? Section A is mandatory, obligatory, call it whatever you will. You have to respond to Section A. Section A is worth 50% of the marks as well. Okay, so half of the exam is Section A. There's 1 question in Section A, and we'll come to that in a sec. We'll go through each question. So you have to answer Section A, and you have to answer 2 questions from Section B. You do not have to answer every question in Section B. You have to answer 2. I know that sounds stupid, but every year we get somebody who tries to do 6 questions.
And we can only answer 2.
And you can only answer 2 from Section B. So in total, 1 question in Section A, and 2 from Section B, consisting of 3 exam answers you need to prepare. Okay? So, as Sarah's mentioned, we have the time, we have the date. The time is 4:30. So a nice evening finish, which means you won't be too delayed when you get there. It means that hopefully traffic won't be an issue for you, which means you can get there at least an hour before and relax and settle in, and you won't be too stressed, okay? It is in the Sugden Sports Hall. If you're unsure of where that is, the examinations page on MMU will give you directions to it if you need, but it is that direction, which you people who are watching on Hangout obviously can't benefit from, but it's across the front door of the business school, go across the park, and then obviously you'll see that yellow bar. What's the yellow bar? Footage, is it? No?
Yes,
yes. Yes, go past the footage, and then it's on your left, okay? So it's not too far away. That's where it is. That's what. Get there early. Make sure you get there early. Make sure you bring something like some kind of sugar, some water, some kind of liquids to sustain you during that 2 hours, because it's going to be intense, okay? Because we've given you all these questions and you're going to prepare your answers. You're going to be writing very fast. So you're going to need to do a bit of practice to see how fast you can write, but you will literally spend that 2 hours as much as you can getting as much information down on paper. So make sure you bring something to keep your energy levels up as well.
Also, we have put down the Sugden Sports Centre, but if anyone has got individual arrangements for their assessments, obviously it won't be in the Sugden Sports Centre, and you will need to check your own individual examination timetable. So what I would do is encourage everyone to check their exam timetable and not just go off what information we've given you, as things may change and you may not be in that room, okay?
Okay. So some people could be in the business school. Okay, so your first question, which is mandatory, obligatory, and you must answer. Provide an evaluation of one of the contemporary areas of digital marketing explored during the course of this unit. This evaluation should consist of a definition, the main features, the benefits and drawbacks for an organization using it, and a conclusive statement. So note, I'm pointing to 4 significant things in that answer. Make sure you include all 4 in your answer when you put them down, okay? So the choice of contemporary digital marketing area are as follows. Number 1, online influencers. Remember we spoke about that? Yeah, lecture on online influencers. Number 2, newsjacking. Spoken about newsjacking in the past couple of weeks. Gamification. Spoke to you about gamifying branded experiences and how they work, and we gave some great case studies, some great examples. Or social commerce. So again, how businesses use social media to sell or to raise awareness of some of the services that they provide. Okay, so section A is, let me repeat, you need to provide an evaluation of a digital marketing, an area of digital marketing explored during the course. So I wasn't lying to you when I said at the beginning of this term, term 1 is about understanding the platforms. Term 2 is about applying those platforms and learning about the techniques. So what we want from you in this question is you to show us you understand some of the techniques associated with these platforms and you can critically evaluate them as well, okay? So your evaluation should consist of a definition, so you need a definition for whichever one you choose, the main features of that area of digital marketing, the benefits and drawbacks for an organization using it. So how can that benefit an organization? What great competitive advantage can they get? And also what drawbacks, what could go wrong? So think about if you're going to get involved in something like gamification, what might happen? How could you damage your brand? How could that be an issue for you if you did? Okay. And then to close it off, the final thing we want is a conclusive statement that presents your argument, presents your impression of your overall evaluation. Okay. So you might talk about newsjacking, you might give us a definition of that, use some good evidence to back that up. You might talk about the main features of what newsjacking is. Think about that news cycle. You might look at some examples of how a brand has used it quite well. Think about the dress. Think about, I don't know, the dress is quite a good example. And then talk about some of the drawbacks, how it might have affected an organization when it's backfired. I think Joanna would have given you loads of examples of that. And then have a conclusion. Your conclusion might be that newsjacking is a fantastic digital marketing technique that should be used or could be used to great effect. However, tell us what you really think about it. Okay, so these are your 4 topics: online influencers, newsjacking, gamification, and social commerce. So hopefully one of those float your boat, and hopefully one of those is interesting to you, and you're going to be able to prepare a great answer for that. Okay, section A equals 50% of the grade, 50% of your marks for it. So therefore, 50% of 2 hours equals 1 hour. Okay. So if you want a rough measure of how much you should write for your exam answer, try and do a quick practice of how fast you can write in 20 minutes and then count the number of words that you have written. Multiply that by 3 to get 60, and then you roughly know how much you can write within 60 minutes. Okay, that will give you a good guide on it. But if you're in the exam hall and you're spending more than 1 hour and 15 minutes in section A, you're running out of time very, very quickly. Okay, so only dedicate 60 minutes, an hour to section A. And then finally, 50% of the marks will go for that.
Do we expect some references and citations in there?
Well, you know I love a good reference. We've provided a reading list and we've provided references at the end of the lecture slides from nearly every week this term. Yes, if you are providing just your opinion, that's not really a true evaluation. An evaluation should include evidence, it should include examples, it should include case studies, it should include academically credible evidence that points to and supports what you're trying to say in your exam answer. So yeah, I would like to see absolutely loads of references.
And statistics?
Statistics, if you can get them. If you think about like online influencers, there might be some great stats you could find there. Have a look on Statista, see kind of what's the percentage or what's the number of followers that some online influencer has. Look at the impact that's had in the number of sales. Has the uplift, or has there been a sales uplift within a certain brand over a certain period of time? That'd be great. Millennial generation, 16 to 25-year-olds, all follow an online influencer. Give us that evidence. Give us those stats. That'd be lovely. That would really, really improve your evaluation, make it a bit more scientific. Whereas if you just say, I like online influencers because I follow Zoella, that's just your opinion. We need evidence. We need stats. Okay.
And with the case studies, do you want to give 1, 2, 3? Have you got any ideas of how many you're looking for? Is 1 enough if they do it well? I
would say 1 enough if you got it discussed very well. So let's say if you talk about online influencers and you give 1 case study and you track the main features, the benefits and the drawbacks of that, that'd be good. But if you find yourself stuck, there's no problem with having a few in there. Just make sure that you provide a definition, main features, benefits and drawbacks, and a conclusion.
Okay.
Okay. Section A. Thank you very much. Section B has 5 questions, of which you should choose 2. Okay.
And we repeat again, only 2. Only answer 2, because we can only give you marks for 2.
Exactly. Every year, there's one who tries to answer every question with a paragraph, and just don't. You section B, there are 5 questions, answer 2. Next slide, please. So the first question is based around online consumer behavior. So how many lectures did we do on that? Well, arguably 2, but arguably I'd say there's about 3 or 4 lectures so far this term which point towards online consumer behavior because it's such an important topic. Okay, so what do we want you to do? This question is twofold. as in there's two parts to it. The first thing we want you to do is we want you to evaluate how new online communities are influencing consumer behavior. Okay, online communities, what do we mean by that? Well, think about our online influencers. That might be a good example. Think about social commerce, people joining a Facebook page or a social media community group and then going online, and that somehow influences how they purchase. Have a look at gamification. Have a look for Pokemon Go. Has that changed the way that people behave? Has it got people out of their house and walking around, interacting in groups, etc.? There is tons of examples you could put in there, okay? So part one of the first question in section B is evaluate how new online communities are influencing online consumer behavior. Second part to that, oh, sorry, what was it? Support your answer by providing 2 examples of social media communities. Okay, so ignore the 2-part thing. There is one, sorry, there is one part to it. So we need you to evaluate how online communities are influencing consumer behaviors and then provide 2 examples of social media communities, which obviously we've covered in quite a few of the lectures, but find some examples and then discuss them. Now, to discuss and present your examples, you need to justify them with credible academic evidence. You'll notice that phrase being used in nearly every question and every slide in section B, okay? So we're really pointing to the difference here between your group assignment and your exam. You need to show us that you've read stuff, okay? You need to show us that you're using the core text, the reading list, and other literature that you found out and around there on the web.
What we're really looking for here is for you to use the library. This is the point where we put away Google, we put away blogs, and we're starting to open the library resources. We're going to be looking for case studies. There's loads of case studies on Walk. There's loads of case studies and examples that are written up around these online communities, and you'll be able to use our reading list to find them. So that's what we're really going to be looking for.
Yep, and Work is great. There's a lot of online databases, electronic databases that you can use to find examples of that, but Work's a great place to start because you can find lots of different case studies and lots of bits of analysis.
Yeah.
Okay, academically credible evidence, yeah, okay, definitely not Google. The difference between that is that we will have
journal articles.
I know, because
wow.
Guess what, folks? We'll come to this in a sec, but you have to include your references as well, okay? So the references need to be within your answer. Okay, the next question that we have is measurement and analytics. So all the great stuff that you guys did in the workshops and all the great stuff that we would have spoken to you about in terms of digital measurement, okay? So it's quite an important topic, so we need you to get your head around this at this stage. So question is, describe what customer activities the digital marketer can observe on a website. Now, you guys should be able to give me examples of hundreds of those, okay? So what can the digital marketer observe from a customer on a website? So people landing on your website, what activities can we observe? How do they interact with the website? How do they interact on the page? How do they go from one page to another? How do they read the page? How often do they spend on your website? How quickly do they leave? There's specific metrics there, which you guys should know about, which we've spoken about, and to some degree you've looked at in the workshops. Yeah. So you should be able to pull out a couple of those and describe them and explain the importance of them, okay? Now, we want you to describe a couple of these. Now, not loads because you don't have too much time, but provide a couple of those. The second part of the question, which is why I was mixed up, it's a 2-part question. When considering these activities, so the activities that you've identified, explain what actions the digital marketer can do to improve future campaigns. So, for example, if everybody lands on your website and leaves within 3 seconds, what's that called? Thank you, my lovely assistant. You've earned your $5 for the day. A bounce, okay? So if somebody lands on your website and leaves within 3 seconds, that's called a bounce. So therefore, bounce rate would be an important metric which a digital marketer might want to keep an eye on. Why? Because that says that somebody's landed on your website and they didn't like what they saw. If you're trying to sell stuff and people don't like what you have on your homepage, they're going to leave very quickly. Therefore, what would you do to improve that? Well, you might look to reduce the bounce rate by doing something, okay? So that's that second part of the question. So identify the metric, which is important for a digital marketer to observe, and how do you fix that, okay?
Yeah. Great. And just to remind you all, you still have the Business School's real website metrics on the Moodle page that you can look back to have another evaluation of some of these metrics, okay? So just to remind yourself of what we did in the tutorials would be a great starting point when you start researching this topic,
Is it all starting to click now?
hopefully.
These workshop topics every week was supposed to be building up to us. But anyway, I'm sure we told you that back last year. Anyway, okay, so, right, sound like a broken record, but justify your answer with credible academic evidence to illustrate these behaviors and the actions mentioned above. So whatever you mention in part 1 and part 2 of this question, it needs to be justified with credible academic evidence, which does not come from Google and comes from a book, a journal, or an established source. Industry source, yeah. So Statista, WARC, Mintel, Euromonitor, all that lovely stuff. Just make sure you're downloading that information. But the great news is you've got a couple of weeks before the exam, so you've got plenty of time to go and grab all of that information.
Yeah.
Okay, next slide, thank you. Section B, oh, sorry, we're on section B, but this is the third question on section B. So this points
my
towards
favourite topic.
your favorite. Well, I think, would you like to
No,
introduce this?
you can go.
All right, okay. Sarah's got a little bit of a cough, so she's not able to talk. That's why I'm here today. Development, politics, and governance. So a very interesting topic, one very dear to your heart, I'm sure. And I have been dropping a few exam bombs this term as well for different things you might want to look out for, obviously because we knew that this was coming up. So this question is, describe and discuss how content on social media was used in the 2016 Brexit referendum campaign. Okay. Now, there has been some specific reference to a report in the lectures, which was about the election the year before. You might want to look for something similar. There has been inches and inches of web content written about that, about the Brexit campaign and how social media was used. So there's going to be plenty of examples out there. But we want you to pick 3 and then evaluate, again, that word again, think about section A. We need you to evaluate the impact of social media content on the younger voter. So, to put it another way, how did social media affect young voters in terms of the vote for Brexit? Okay, there's going to be millions of examples out there. Every different side of the debate of the referendum had one point of view or another, and they went online to spread that message or to spread to spread that message. I want to remain objective. We need you to pick 3 examples and discuss them. Okay. And that evaluation, think about section A where you talk about the main features, the benefits and the drawbacks. You might want to apply some of the same things in this answer, okay? Broken record time again, justify your answer with academically credible evidence. Now you might not necessarily find a lot of stuff about the Brexit because it is quite new, but you need to use stuff about how digital and online content has been used in terms of voting, elections, politics, and governance, which we did talk about quite a lot in the lecture. Yeah. So it should be good.
And we are starting to get some of the reports around the 2016 campaign come through.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have been looking at this and doing bits of research since then. So there is stuff that is coming out. Okay, so nice question. Next question. Next slide. Viral marketing. A topic dear to your heart, I'm sure. I mentioned cream eggs. I'm sure you're gonna.
And love hearts.
And love hearts, very good. So viral marketing, very important topic. Where here's your viral marketing question. Critically analyze one viral marketing campaign of your choice and discuss what value has been added to the brand. So we want you to pick a viral campaign and critically analyze it. So critical analysis is very different to description. Do not just tell us what happened. Do not just tell us that over 60 million people saw a video. That's describing. We need you to critically analyze. And critically analyze is to deconstruct and pull apart the elements within the campaign, talk about why elements of the campaign worked, talk about how it convinced people to share this message, talk about whether it actually contributed towards somebody selling a cream egg or selling a love heart or selling whatever product that you choose. Okay? So this is not just a description of a viral marketing campaign, it's a critical analysis. And the marks will go for critical analysis. Okay. You will not get marks for description. Justify your answer with academically credible evidence?
Yeah.
We don't need to say that again? Yes, we do. We have to say
we do.
Absolutely
every single question.
Yeah. So this is the difference between that group assignment and this exam. Okay. There needs to be lots and lots of citations, lots of references. But we'll talk about references in a second. Okay. Yeah. Next slide, please.
Social media and employability.
Now, this is a bit of an odd one
we're going to be doing this topic after Easter.
Yeah, so you haven't actually had this lecture, but you've been given the question in advance.
So you can come prepared to that lecture and tutorial, knowing what you're going to be needing to get out of it.
Okay.
So, as I'm giving that lecture, so with this question, you need to think about something. You need to think about how has social media changed how we view employability, and how can you use social media to make yourself more employable online. And you need to think about some examples. You need to think about some case studies, and you need to think about the strengths and benefits of different social media. And you need to justify your answer with some credible sources.
No way.
Shocker. So if someone has got a job from LinkedIn that your mate knows, that is not a credible source. But what is a credible source is a recruiter's website disclosing how many times they place someone based on a LinkedIn profile or LinkedIn search. There is lots of data out there that shows that social media presence has massively improved employability, because employers can find you online. And they can also, unfortunately for some of you, find out what you've been doing at university online.
You can also find what you've done in Ibiza that summer that you probably shouldn't be
disclosing.
Yeah. So that might affect your employability as well.
So you need to think about some of the benefits, and this is why we're saying how has social media improved your employability. So we're looking at the positive aspects of this and how you could proactively improve your employability, and how through this essay you would guide someone using credible sources and credible academic evidence and industry reports and some journal articles and textbooks to show how employability can be improved through social media and social media platforms.
Great. Nice question.
Yeah, good question.
Well, it'll help you out as well. Okay, next slide, please.
So after Easter, you're going to be coming back, and we've just given away the biggest secret. First week back after Easter, you will be doing a lecture which answers one of the questions, which is employability online, and you'll be doing a tutorial which is orientated towards answering that specific question. So please do not miss that. The second week back, we will be doing one-to-one 10-minute slots where we'll be signing up to them through Moodle. Okay. With this, we'll be confirming the room via Moodle. So whichever slot you pick, it might be a different room at a different date at a different time. So I can't tell you right now which room it's going to be with, but you will get the room confirmed on Moodle when you book it. And we will be expecting you to come with something. We don't expect you to come with a blank piece of paper and go, how do I answer the exam? We want you to come with your prepared questions. We want to be able to improve your grades. We want to be able to give you what we call feed forward, not feedback once you've got the result. We want it to be able to improve your grade through this session and through these 10 minutes slots. And it's down to you to come with some questions that you may want to ask me, some materials you may want me to look through, and you can either have it on a USB or print it out. And we will not be asking you questions in these sessions. We'll be expecting you to ask us questions and be prying us for information to improve your grades. Okay?
Very good. So when you come with that prepared exam question, you're essentially getting an academic to sit, or an academic and a tutor to sit with you and go through your exam answer before you go into the exam hall and write it out. So do make use of it. It's one of the most valuable things that you can do, or that you can take advantage of in this term this year. Definitely. Apart from showing up to the lecture with Sarah after Easter, of course.
And turning up to the exam.
And turn up to the exam. That's obviously number one. But second to that, if you can sit with a tutor, but they will actually go through it, and there'll be a red pen if you, improve this, maybe add a bit of this, add a bit of that, add a bit of that. You need a bit more evidence here. But there's another important point, which I don't know whether we've mentioned it there. You cannot ask about any grades, about what grade you'll get. No, you will not. It's just going to be a discussion of how to improve what you've got. Okay, there's always going to be room for improvement, but if there's things that are missing, obviously we'll point that out for you.
It will be a chat.
Okay, so
at this point,
Oh, hello.
If you are live, you can ask questions online,
Ask questions here. Nobody.
or on Twitter, or we open it to the floor of the room. Has anyone got any questions at all about anything to do with?
We start at section B. What's the first question topic? Evaluate how new online communities are influencing.
So online consumer behaviour.
Mhm.
Thank you, Lucas. It's behind us. What's the question? Oh, you just want to
That
copy?
was the question.
All right,
Just
okay.
got it laid out nice and easy.
Will the exam questions be made available to the students?
The exam questions are already on Moodle, and you will be able to download the exam questions, and these slides will be made available on Moodle too.
Do you provide a full-on reference list then at the end?
Very good
Yes,
question.
very good question.
So within your exam answers, we will expect to see brackets with author and date in the correct Harvard format. And we will also expect to see a reference list at the end of your exam script. Okay? That means you need to factor that time in with the amount of time you're going to spend writing your exam answers. i.e., if it takes you 5 minutes to write your reference list, you need to make sure you've got that 5 minutes set aside. Okay? Now, am I right in thinking that we are not including any long URLs in that
Yes.
reference list? Okay, so let's say if you had a reference and it was from WARC and it was a report on online influencers or something like that. Thank you very much. And then you had an article there which was from WARC 2017. You include WARC, comma, 2017 in your answer. In your reference list, you just include the name of that report. Do not give us the very long www.warc.com/ and then a really long URL. We don't need that, okay? We just need the name of the report, okay? Now, we keep talking about academically credible evidence. So you really shouldn't be using lots of online references in your exam answer. If you're using references from blogs, for example, you probably shouldn't, because there should be a book or there should be a market report or it could be some credible source of information that's there, meaning that you don't actually need to use any online references at all. Okay? Yes?
Do you know, for the references, do you have like a rough estimate on how many you're supposed to include?
About as long as a piece of string.
And also, how many, is that the same with the words as well?
With the words, it ultimately depends on you. It depends on how many words you can write within the period of time that you have, okay? So what a lot of students have done in the past is they have created these beautiful, poetic Charles Dickens style responses to these exam answers, brought them in that thick to the exam hall, and then only have been able to write one answer. And then even at that, they haven't finished. So you need to, your job is to figure out how quickly you can write within 120 minutes and work it out from there.
So most of the thinking's done before and getting there.
Yeah.
Hallelujah. Hence the reason for a pre-seen open book exam. You do the research and you do the hard thinking before you go in there. This is, folks, an exercise in handwriting, how quickly you can write.
And research within this limited time period. You've got a few weeks before your exam.
A few, loads.
Yeah, well,
3 weeks over Easter and then what? 1, 2, 3, 4.
come on, you've got
5 or 6 weeks until you got loads of time.
until May.
You've got all the questions. It's like you've got an exam in 6 weeks. Off you go and study. We've given you the exam questions. Okay.
But
So-
what about the word count? What I would say about this is your word count, 50% of all the words you write should be question 1. 25% should be one of your answers to question 2. 25% should be one of your answers to section 2. You shouldn't be writing the same amount for section 1 as the 2 question, as each question, like a third, a third, a third. Section 1 is worth 50% of your grade, and then each of the other 2 questions is worth 25%. Therefore, your word count should be indicative of those words and those marks. So that's the only real advice we can give you about it, is we don't know how fast each of you are going to be able to write in that time period, but you should have half of your words in section 1, 25% of your words in one of your answers to section 2, and 25% of your words in another section.
And that also raises another question. It's not necessarily about the quantity It's about the quality. So don't worry if you don't think you can write very fast. That doesn't matter. If you have a well-argued, well-constructed, well-built answer, you'll get good grades for it. I feel like I'm being a little bit unfair. I want to come back to that how many references question.
Oh.
Have a look at the questions themselves and ask yourself the question. Are they asking me for my opinion, or are they asking for something which comes from a book, which comes from a published source? Okay. In some questions, we're asking you for a critical description. So I think that critical description should have quite a few different points of evidence in there. So maybe nearly every sentence or every second sentence should have some point of evidence, but there would be a conclusive statement there, which is your opinion. So I'd say your conclusion should have a bit of your opinion, but the rest of the answer should be justified with references.
There doesn't seem to be any questions coming in.
No
online.
questions online. Is anybody watching online? Actually, we can find
15.
out. 15. Hi, 15 people. Can somebody put a... Jeez, we're like the worst vloggers ever. Nobody cares.
No, I even ask questions here and people are still not doing it.
All right. What happens if any of these guys and any of these guys in the room and any of these guys online have questions after we finish?
So we're going to be running our Moodle forum about the exam. So we're going to be answering questions on a Moodle forum. We have put the exam briefing, we put the exam paper, we're going to be putting the exam forum and the exam tutorial and the exam lecture slides, all on the top part of Moodle. So it'll be really easy for you to find. Please don't email me asking me where the exam paper is, because my soul will hurt. But everything is going to be at the top of the Moodle page. You're going to be able to find loads of questions. When we open up the slots, there'll be a Moodle announcement that says sign up to your one-to-one 10-minute slot, and that slot booking will also be at the top of the Moodle page. Everything should be really easy to find. All of Term 2 content has been moved to the top of the page. This is because that's what you need to focus on right now. Okay? You need to be focusing on those lectures. You need to be focusing on those workshops. We have left all of the website data. We've left all of the Facebook data. We've left all of the tasks up there. All of the forums are full of work people have provided over the last 12 weeks. And you can use all of these resources. There's the reading list that's available through the library. There is the end of every single lecture slide. Okay? And if you ever check it, there is the dump hashtag that has some examples tweeted out on it. Okay?
There might be an increase in activity in the next few weeks.
Yeah, there might be.
Very good.
Anyone got any final questions?
You know, you go away and write it. Can it be brought in on a Word doc, or does it have to be written up on like an A4 bit of paper?
What do you mean by Word doc?
So can you like go away, type on a Word doc, print it off, and bring it in, or does it have to be written
Correct.
up?
Yes, you can,
Yeah,
but you
correct.
would not be able to bring the laptop.
You're not
in.
able to bring
Yeah,
a
you can't
laptop
bring
in.
your laptop. You
Yeah,
can print it
bring a
off
hard
and
copy,
bring
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Yeah.
In fact, I'd recommend it because just to make sure
Yeah.
that you can read it. Don't bring in any books to the exam. Don't overload yourself, because otherwise you're bringing out. You should have done the work before the day of the exam. Okay. And I suppose the final point is don't stress too much about this. I can see some concerned faces. We're helping you as best we can. Students tend to do very well in this exam because we've given you the questions already. It is anticipated that you will go away and do that work, but the other weird thing is sometimes you guys forget all the great stuff you've done so far. Sarah's just mentioned all the presentations that are on Moodle. That's half the battle there. That's half the work done. Go back and see what other people have done. How do they critically analyze a viral campaign? How do they do this? How do they look at social commerce? How do they...
Yeah.
Thinking is there. You've already done half. But just pull it together and then start creating your answer. And start soon, because the sooner you start, the sooner you finish, the sooner you can prepare for other modules that you have to.
Yeah, please do not underestimate the other revision that you're going to have to do. Most of you sat in here will have 3 exams during this period. And we have given you the exam questions. You've got 3 weeks at Easter. You've got 2 weeks back where you've got specific coursework related sessions. And by the end of those coursework related sessions and those drop-ins of one-to-one, we're hoping you're just revising and improving this questions. By then, all the hard work should be done. And you will be able to focus your revision on other exams where you don't have questions and it is a memory task. Okay? But don't forget about the fact that you've got other work due in, and you're going to have to manage your schedule and not leave it till last minute. Okay?
Hands up, who's going to do online consumer behavior? Hands up, who's going to do measurement and analytics?
I'd do that one.
Hands up, who's going to do development and politics? Yeah, like that. Hands up, who's going to do, oh God, I forgot the other one.
Viral.
Viral marketing. Yeah. Hands up, who's going to do social media employability? Bearing in mind, you haven't even had the lecture yet. The bar's been raised. You need to smash that one out of the park after Easter. All right, dudes, good luck. Enjoy. Seminars this week are based around the exam.
Yeah.
Cool.
Have a good one.
Finish.